friends. So this week we're going to do something just a little bit different with the notes. There's not really any funky strumming patterns or weird voicings going on in this tune. It's a fairly straightforward one. So what I want to do is continue actually our lesson from Tuesday on the Nashville number system and just provide a little bit of a harmonic analysis for this song and explain why these chords work well together and complement each other, even though some of them really step outside our usual diatonic space and get outside of the key. But if you've listened to this tune or if you've played along with it already, you'll note that there's not anything that's really jarring to the ear. Everything sounds correct. But when we look at the chords, you'll see a few that just kind of seem out of place. If there are any weird noises during this video, please do excuse them. A work crew knocked down 4 telephone poles on my street earlier today, so there were 15 Pico trucks outside installing new telephone poles. I just got power and internet back a couple minutes ago. So please bear with me just in case there's any weird noises. So let's hop into this tune. So Louisiana Fairytale, we're doing in the key of F, and we're starting on an F major chord. Our 1 chord, which is where we want to start. It's a beautiful place to start. There's nothing weird about this. As we got over to bar 2, we're playing an F7th now, which means that we're taking our F triad and we're adding an E flat to it. So if you've gone through my 12 key series or you're familiar with key signatures, you know there's no E flat in the key of F. That makes no sense. But if we look ahead to the next measure, we are going to a B flat 6th chord, or we can even just think of this as a regular old B flat chord. And we can see that this E flat in the F7th is leading us, because if we play our F and then E flat and then B, we're coming right down to this D on the 2nd fret. So we get this nice movement down to it. And if we look at this in the key of B flat for a second, this F7th is functioning as what's called a secondary dominant chord. We know that our dominant chords are the 5th scale degree, the triad or 7th chord, based off of the 5th scale degree that gives us our strongest tone to go back to 1. So in the key of F, if we play a C7th, it's going to resolve to a 1. It's just where our ear wants it to go. So likewise, in the key of B flat, if we count B flat, C, D, E flat, F, F7th would be our dominant chord. So by adding this E flat in, we're creating what's called a secondary dominant, or a dominant in the key that we're temporarily moving to, or B flat in this case. So we're borrowing this F7th from the key of B flat so that our ear hears this E flat in here, which gives us this great, beautiful movement to the B flat 6th chord without it being jarring. Now, I can play it without the 7th in there. You can play but without that E flat in there, our ear is not forced into that B flat. We're trying to give context for this. So that F7th chord is leading directly to our B flat as a secondary dominant. Now, as we do this, we're sitting on the 4 chord in the key of F, our B flat. And the next measure, we're going to go down to a B flat minor 6th. Again, we're adding in a D flat to this chord. That doesn't work in here, but we're creating this chromatic movement again. So if we look at the middle voices of what we're playing, over the F major chord, we have an F, then F7th, we're going down E flat. Then when we get to the B flat, we're on a D, and then we play this B flat minor 6th. It's another half step chromatic movement down to a D flat, and we're leading right back to an F, right? So if we go down another half step, that C in our F major chord is right there. So we have this nice interior line that is moving by adding in this minor 6th chord. A minor 6th chord over the 4, or in this case, a B flat to a B flat minor 6th, with this movement on the 3rd leading back to the 5th of our root chord, is a very common substitution as opposed to playing a C7th or a dominant chord in this that gives just a little bit more fluid of the movement. And you'll see this a lot. It's the beginning of I'll See You in My Dreams, I Can't Believe That You're in Love With Me. This occurs in the B section of All of Me. It occurs in the B section of Sin to Tell a Lie. This 4 to minor 4/6 is a very, very common voice leading technique that is used in early jazz. And then as we move on from here, we're resolving to our root, or the F major chord, and then we're going to an A7th, which is G, C sharp, E, and A. So this C sharp, we need a little bit of an explanation for this, because there's no C sharp in the key of F. But listen if I play an A minor, which is what would naturally occur. F, A minor. Now listen to it the A7th. We're forced to go to that D minor 7th, right? That A7th is our dominant chord in the key of D minor. You know, D, E, F, G, A. A7th is our 5 chord. So this is another secondary dominant that we are using just to give ourselves stronger movement to this D minor 7th chord. And then we come down to an F diminished, or you can think of it as a D diminished 7th chord. It's the same grouping of notes, depending how you want to look at it. But that's, again, much like the minor 4 chord on the B flat minor 6th. This is just giving us that half step movement to get us just a little bit closer to where we need to go. Again, back to the F in this case by using this diminished chord, because we're getting a half step away from this A here and from this C or this A here with these two notes here, while keeping common tones on the D and the F. So our progression sounds like this. Here's our D minor. Now we're only changing 2 notes in this, and then we're resolving back down to our F. So we get this stronger harmonic movement by using half steps that are created by the diminished 7th chord, as opposed to just going directly back to it. We could just hang on the D minor 7th, right? Love is at its height, enchanting us tonight, just like. But if we add in this diminished chord, love is at its height, it's enchanting us tonight, just like. We get that stronger harmonic movement that pushes our ear. And that's really what we want to do, is we want to use these devices to push the harmony so that the listener is hearing what their ear wants to hear, which is usually a half step away from the next tone that we're going to. Whole steps work as well, but a half step, the closer we are, the more that your ear feels as though you just have to go to that next chord. You're forcing the listener's ear to go where you want it to go before it gets there by using these devices. And then we just play F, C7th, F, right? 1, 5, 1, nothing special, all good. Now, when we get to the bridge, we're starting on the B flat 6 to the B flat minor 6th. We've already explained this. Another common thing to do in bridges is to go to the 4 chord. We do this quite frequently. So you have the same movement, B flat 6, back to the F, and now we're going to a D7th chord. So again, we have an F sharp in here. We're in the key of F. That makes no sense. We have that D, A, and a C. So why do we have this D7th chord? Because it sounds correct in context. We're going to skip that for 1 second, and we're going to go ahead to our G7th chord first, because this is going to help us explain the D7th chord. Now G7th, again, we don't usually have this. We have a G minor 7th in the key of F. So this G7th, if we look even further ahead to bar 25 as we get to the C7th chord, a G7th is the dominant in the key of C. So this is another secondary dominant that we are using. We could play a G minor 7. There are no Bs or B flats in this entire melodic line. We could theoretically play a G minor 7. It would work. But this B natural in the G7th chord pushes our ear a half step away from the C7th or the B flat in the C7th, either the C or the B flat there. So this G7th acting as a secondary dominant to the C7th gives us that strong leading tone. If we play a G minor 7th, we just don't quite have that push to the next dominant chord. So now back to that D7th, we can think of this in the same way as a secondary dominant. The D7th is the secondary dominant to our G7th, right? G, B, D, up to our 5th there. So this is the 5 of the 5, right? That's of the 5 is what we're doing. We're backpedaling 3 steps. The C7th is our 5 chord in the key of F. The G7th we're using as a substitution to have a dominant chord to the C7th, so we're doing a temporary modulation to a different key. And the D7th is doing the same thing for the G7th that the G7th is accomplishing for the C7th. So it's becoming a dominant of a dominant of the dominant of our chord. And you'll see as we break down more of these harmonic analysis over time that the dominant and the tonic chords and the resolution and how they play with each other is really the most important part of harmony. And most tunes, no matter how many chords are in there, we can really just boil down to dominant versus tonic and what that release and that tension is to get there. Even if we look at something like John Joel Coltrane's Giant Steps, which has a bunch of chords in it, if you really analyze that, all that's happening are 2 5-1s, or we don't even have to worry about the 2. You can conceptualize it as a 5-7 chord, or dominant to tonic in 3 different keys. That's all that's happening in that song. But it looks like a lot's going on in there, and that's exactly what's happening here, is we're using secondary dominance to propel the motion of the song where we want it to go, ultimately leading up to the resolution of getting to the C7th in the bridge here, or at the end of the tune, getting to an F chord. So I know this is a lot in this video. So what I recommend is going through the chart and marking in just how these chords are functioning. So if we want to go through this in the Nashville number system, we would write, I'm going to give you just the verse of this to start with, so you see how we could write this. So the F chord would be our 1 chord, which is write a 1 over top. F7th, we could call it a 1-7 chord as a dominant 7, or we could say that it is the 5-7 of our 4. We could do 5-7 over 4/4 and do the same thing. And then we'd be at our 4 chord on the B flat 6th. We'd be at a 4 minor, so you just put a 4M on the B flat minor 6th. And then we have back to F, we're back to 1, our tonic. There's a 7th, we said is the dominant of our D minor 7th that we're going to. So this is the 5 of 6. It's always going to be the 5 of something. We can do this with really any scale degree. We can do the 2 of any key, and we can borrow these chords from different keys to get our harmonic movement going. So we would have the 5 of 6th in this A7th, and then we would be at our normal 6th chord in D minor. F diminished we'll just do as a 1 diminished there, and we have 1, 5, 1. So what I want you guys to try to do is go through the bridge here and write down what our number system would tell us to conceptualize the bridge as. If you have any questions, please just shoot me a message. I know there's a lot in this video. I'm going to break down some more tunes like this as we go along so that we can really start to understand how the melody and the chords interact with each other to give us the beautiful sound that these tunes have. These songs are pop tunes and they sound very simplistic, but there's actually a lot going on here. And I think it's a whole lot of fun to really break these down and figure out not just how to make this sound good, but why it sounds good.